In this video, we're going to check out some quick hacks to make sure that your pages load quickly, because after all, pages that have fast load times tend to have better engagement and better conversion rates. Your leads have options, and they're not going to wait around for you. So let's walk through 4 tips for improved page performance. To improve your page's performance, we'll focus first on the framework of your site. If you're building a website from scratch, there are a whole bunch of things you need to think about, such as hosting or using a CDN or a caching strategy. But when you build pages with Ontraport, we take care of a lot of that behind the scenes work so that you can focus on what you're really putting on the page. But what you put on the page matters too. Something that comes up a lot for our users is image size, because images that are too big are the #1 cause of slow loading pages. So here's our first quick fix. Simply resize your images. Well, the best size image fits in the container you're putting it in on an average size screen. So for Ontraport pages, containers are your columns. The measurement you should focus on is the width of the columns your image lives in. I'll show you how to find the perfect size for each of your images and use a standard 1920 by 1080 display resolution. First, keep in mind that your Ontraport pages and the images on them grow and shrink depending on the size of the screen that they're viewed on. These pixel numbers don't have to be exact, but if your image is too small, it'll look pixelated and low quality on a bigger screen. And if it's too big, the image just slows down your page loading time. Any image that fills up your whole page's width, like a page or block background, should be at least 1920 pixels wide. If your image sits in a column that only takes up half the page, you can go with something closer to 960 pixels, and if it's a third of your page, 640. To get your image sizes just right, we can resize them in Ontraport using 2 steps. The first step is to figure out the ideal size of your image using the Inspect tool in your browser. I'll show you how to do this using Chrome. Start by clicking on Preview on your page. Next, right-click your mouse and select Inspect. Slide the Inspect window size to the right so it's as small as possible. Next, select an element in the page to inspect it. Then, hover over your image placeholder and check how wide your image is currently. The width is the first number right here. You can use this width as your image size or pad it a little bit just to be safe. If it says 400 pixels, maybe increase it by 10%, something like 440 or 450 pixels wide. Now that you know the size you want your image, we're going to head back into Ontraport's editor for step 2, which is actually resizing your image. Select the image on your page and click Edit from the image settings. Next, click the Transform tab and be sure to check Lock Resolution at the bottom of your screen. Finally, resize your image by putting the width you're looking for here. Click Save and you're done. Okay, the next issue that slows down your pages is third-party scripts. So our second tip is to actually minimize those. Of course, some scripts are required, things like Google Analytics scripts or maybe a Facebook pixel, but the more you add, the slower your page. So only add what you absolutely need. And if you need to add extra scripts to your pages, you might want to use a script minifier app to remove any unnecessary characters from your code and make it load faster. For example, you can use a free resource like minify.org to drop in your JavaScript or CSS. Then you can click Minify to remove extra characters and add your cleaned code to your page. It really is as simple as that. Moving on to our third tip, skip WordPress. Building and hosting pages in Ontraport is always a faster option than publishing those pages in WordPress. If you are trying to optimize the loading speed on a WordPress site, you need to start worrying about things like plugins, WordPress hosting, the latest PHP versions, and all kinds of upgrades to your hosting platforms, and the list goes on and on and on. All you have to do is Google Optimize WordPress site to see the massive list of issues that WordPress users need to take care of in order to improve their site's performance. But if you are committed to your WordPress site and your embedded Ontraport pages are running slowly, consider hosting those pages on a subdomain of your site instead, something like pages.yourwordpresssite.com. You can learn how to set that up in our video on setting up your custom domain or by contacting our support team. Our final tip is to minimize embedded videos. These are another source of slow page loads because they get information using a third-party server. Usually adding a YouTube or Wistia video or 2 is not a big deal, but if you are going to add something like 10 or 20 videos, things will get slow. Instead, what you can do is add an image for the thumbnail of each video and then link them to a pop-up on a separate page where the video lives. And that's how you speed up a slow page. You can resize your images, minimize your scripts, and skip WordPress to have the fastest loading site possible. And it really is as easy as that.